and today we're going to talk about how to remove and install a new toilet. The reason why we're pulling this one off today is that it's come loose on one of the sides, so it's got a wobble to it. We're not sure if the bolt has just come out or if the flange is actually broken, so we'll figure that out when we get in there. And then we're going to be putting the same toilet back in, but it'll be the same process if you were to do it with a new toilet. The supplies you're going to need, we got a packet of bolts. The toilet bolt kit comes with the washers and the nuts that are required for that. We may be able to use the bolts that are in there, but we have some just in case we need those. And then we got a couple of wax rings. We use the jumbo rings that are the larger ones with the flange. I prefer to use the larger rings, even on one with a flange that is above being flush with the floor, because having extra wax will just kind of squish out to the side. It's not really a problem, but not having enough will cause it to not seal right. So we've got a couple of those that we can use once we get it pulled off there. Other things that you're probably going to need are a crescent wrench, a towel, and we'll talk about a couple different ways to empty the water out of the toilet once you've got the water shut off. So the first thing we're going to do is shut off the water. Okay, so for shutting off the water shut off for a toilet is underneath on the back and to the left side. So you reach down underneath there and turn it to the right. Sometimes it's a couple of turns, sometimes it's just a quarter turn. And then you're going to go ahead and flush the toilet, and so that most of the water will drain out. So we flush the toilet and hold the handle down. And that'll allow the water to completely empty from the tank as much as you can get. Now there's still going to be some water in there. So in this case there's quite a bit of water in there. Okay, we've got our shop vac, and we're going to be sucking the water out of the toilet tank first, and then we'll go ahead and do the bowl as well. So put that guy in. You want to be sure to remove the filter from your shop vac so you can suck up water with it without damaging your filter. And then you don't need to do the bowl necessarily because we already dumped water down there and got most of it out, but since we've got it here, we'll just go ahead and suck out the last little bit. That'll just make it a little bit lighter and easier to move. Okay, before you remove the bolts from the bottom of the toilet, you got to unhook the water supply line from the back. You'll just need to take off the one that's connected to the tank. Sometimes you'll need a wrench to do that. It depends on what kind of connection it is. This one we have here has finger grips on it so you can get a hold of it. You can just loosen it up. It's good to have a towel down there to catch some water because you may have some drips coming out of the supply line. There shouldn't be a whole lot because we drained the toilet already, but we'll get a few drips on our towel, no big deal, and then we're ready to pull the bolts from the bottom edge.
First you'll need to pop off the plastic cap, and then you'll see the toilet bolt underneath. There's typically a metal nut on the bolt, and you'll need a crescent wrench to remove that. On this particular toilet, it used a plastic nut. I prefer the metal ones, but since this is what we have to work with, we'll go ahead and remove those.
Okay, now we're ready to lift the toilet up, and we're going to set it down over here. You want to put something down on the floor to set it on because the bottom of the toilet's going to have the wax and stuff. So you don't want to just be setting it on a nice clean carpet or something. You'll get it all gross. So we've got a ratty towel here to set it on. Toilets are pretty heavy, so it takes a little bit of muscle to lift it up off of there and move it back. If you're not a real big person, then you may want some help. Alright. Okay, now that we have the toilet off, we're going to remove all the wax that's on here and the flange that came with the wax ring. I'm using a paint scraper or a paint stir stick to remove this. This is the flange that comes attached to the wax ring. We're going to get rid of that and just kind of clean off any excess wax that is around there.
and it looks like the flange is broken, so we're going to have to install a repair flange before we can put the toilet back down. Since this is a video on how to pull and install a toilet, I decided to upload the fixing of a broken toilet flange in a separate video, which I will now link in the upper right hand corner. If you need to see how to repair a broken toilet flange, just follow that link. And for now, we'll get back to installing a toilet.
Okay, we've got our flange all fixed and we're ready to put the toilet back on there now. So you're going to want to take your wax ring. There's two ways to do this. Some people like to stick it to the bottom of the toilet and then set the toilet on there. That's not how I like to do it. I like to set the ring on the flange and then set the toilet on top of that. So you just position it over the hole. Kind of squish it down on there a little bit. And we'll be ready to set our toilet on there. This can be easier if you have two people doing it, because getting the bolts lined up with the holes can be tricky. You want to make sure you get it set down on there straight so that you don't smash the wax all crooked. And I got it on there. Once you get your bolts lined up, you're just going to apply even pressure to squish the toilet down on there so that it squishes the wax down. Right. We've got it pushed down on there. We're going to go ahead and I'll move the camera in close so you can see us tightening the bolts down. Okay, we're just going to screw our bolts down, put the nut on top and tighten it on down. And we're going to pull the toilet down toward the base by tightening these bolts. We're going to snug it up now, and then we'll sit on it and squish it down and tighten it up some more. Okay, now I'm going to sit on it and put some weight on there, try to squish it down. And I can tighten them down the rest of the weight. When you're tightening these on with a wrench, when they're a regular metal nut, you have to be careful not to over tighten them and break the base of the toilet. It's real easy to turn them just a little bit too far and snap the base of the porcelain. With these plastic finger tight ones, you can get them pretty tight and not have to worry about that so much. Alright, we got it on there nice and snug. I'm pushing the toilet both ways and it's not moving. So that looks pretty good. Now we need to attach the supply line up underneath. So screw that back in. Alright, and then we can turn the water back on. It'll be time to check for leaks. Okay, once you got your toilet tightened down on there, we're ready to check it for leaks. One thing we want to do when we're down here is check all around the base and see if it's touching the floor. If it's sitting up off the floor on the front and then you go to put a bunch of weight on the seat, it's going to push the front of this down. So you can get, this is a piece of a little toilet shim. I prefer the plastic ones because they don't smash down. Some people use wooden ones, which is also okay, but it'll smash down over time. So I prefer the plastic ones. And I've cut this one off. They come about 2 inches long. You shove it underneath the front. And I'll use this one to kind of push it under a little bit. And then once you get that in there where you want it, then it'll keep you from pushing the front of this down and possibly doing damage to the back with it in there. I'll work it around a little bit and try to get it prettier in a minute. But for checking for leaks, one little trick we like to do is you can put toilet paper around the edges, and then when you flush it, the toilet paper will get wet if it's leaking. You want to flush it 3 or 4 times to make sure that if it is leaking, it's got enough flush going through there to make sure that you can see it on the towel. So far it looks pretty good. I think we're going to be okay. I'm going to flush it a couple more times just to make sure, but then I think we're good.